Welcome to 303 Hoops, a whole lot more than the box score. For you hoop junkies, number nerds, or just someone who loves basketball, this is for the love of the game. As always, I'm Ryan Hinske.
And I'm Caleb Bunch.
And what are we getting into today, Caleb?
Yes. So I think we have a great schedule or great content for you guys today. As always, talking about our songs of the day. And then
New segment.
I'm excited for this. I must confess.
But we couldn't do a new segment for episode 1 because it's based off of past.
Right.
Exactly. It's based off of something we noticed that we didn't talk about.
Right. Yeah.
Last time.
Exactly. I think a big part of this podcast, and I think something that we care a lot about, is giving genuine takes or takes that we actually believe, unlike some pundits, no names to be mentioned.
Yeah.
Whoever's watching this, you can fill in the blanks. But yeah, so we really believe what we say. And so I think part of that is owning up to the takes we had or things we might have missed when thinking about our episodes. So the new segment is called I Must Confess. Confessional, whatever works best, but I'm excited for that. And then, as always, we always have a third segment we'll talk about, and today that will be gambling. So, obviously, the NBA has had a huge gambling scandal, and it's kind of overshadowed how great these past 10-ish days have been with the league and how popular and the talk of the league. So, I think we have a good schedule and good outline for you guys today, and I'm excited to get right into it. So, Ryan, as always, you want to kick us off for Song of the Day?
But first, we got to get into the Song of the Day because, that's important too.
Yeah.
And little teaser at I Must Confess, Song of the Day now, not Song of the Week, Song of the Day.
Song of the Day, yes, people. Sorry for that.
So I went with Love TKO by Teddy Pendergrass.
Dude, you love your old soul cuts, man.
I do.
D'Angelo, Teddy Pendergrass?
Yeah, I have a... sometimes I want like I have a lot of playlists based on vibe.
Right.
And I have one that's like called like My Grandma's House. And she's a big Motown person. So I just kind of, Motown adjacent and Motown, old R&B. Teddy Pendergrass came up yesterday on my commute home. Love TKO. And I was like, man, maybe it's just the weather getting colder or whatever, but it's just like man, it is a soulful song. I'm getting into that right now. I feel like it's that time of year.
Yeah, no, it is. As the weather's changing in Chicago, it's time for
you might have a different
cozy
vibe
takes.
though.
I do have a different vibe, but that's a great song, great cut. Ron Holland from the Pistons. I think this is his favorite song when he got drafted on draft night. Whoever was interviewing was talking about like some of his favorite artists, and he mentioned Teddy Pendergrass and Love TKO. So
really,
yeah. So you and him have something in common.
I mentioned him last episode.
You did.
Yeah,
so
love Ron Holland.
Bring him on the pod.
Yeah, for real. Ron Holland, if you're listening,
free promo.
Yeah,
exactly. No, I did 500 Ounces. It's on Pray for Paris by Westside Gunn. Features Freddie Gibbs and Rock Marciano. Great cut, man. That album is awesome. There's a couple of bangers on it, but this is my favorite. I love Westside Gunn. Do you listen to Westside Gunn or no?
So my roommate's big on Westside Gunn and like the whole like that side of hip hop.
Griselda, like those like.
Yeah, well, he's a big. Whenever Freddie Gibbs and The Alchemist work together,
yes,
that's his most like. And I know The Alchemist has worked with Westside Gunn.
Yes.
But man, I love that you did this one because these are some really good artists. Alfredo too, man.
Yes.
That's a great
album.
A great album.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Do you know Rhett and Link?
No.
They're these guys they're like famous comedians.
Wait a minute. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they're like old now, but they're not old. They're like upper 40s, but they've been around for a long time.
What was
like
their
the commercial
their
Kings.
original segments called?
Commercial Kings.
Commercial Kings. Yes.
And Link, I noticed, like, I sometimes will watch their show. They're from North Carolina. I'm from South Carolina. So it's kind of, I like their, I don't know, they just feel like home to me.
Right.
And the other week, or not, no, it was like the other month, Link from Rhett and Link mentioned, who's the, Boldy James. He mentioned Boldy James on the show. And I was like, this guy knows.
He knows ball.
He does.
He knows ball.
And then I went, like yesterday, he posted pics with Freddie Gibbs on his Instagram and The Alchemist.
Yes.
He was like chatting it up with Freddie Gibbs and The Alchemist. The pictures are crazy. It's like this 50-year-old, like, North Carolina guy from a comedy show where they just eat food. And he's like, meeting all these like deep cut hip hop artists.
Right.
I love it.
I love that.
I'm all for it.
No, that's awesome. Good mythical morning. That was what I was thinking about. But,
yeah. They're still doing that.
Yeah. So, yeah, great picks today. And I think with that being said, let's get right into it.
Let's do it.
We have a lot of ball to talk about today, but before we talk about, our revised picks, we had a couple teams that I think we slept on or didn't consider on Tuesday.
Errors, if you will.
Yeah.
One was a really bad error.
It was bad. And I think mine was a little worse than yours and the team you'll talk about, so I'll kick it off. My team's the Memphis Grizzlies. I did not have them in my top 10.
Me neither. No, I think this is a joint mistake.
Yeah.
But you brought it up first.
Yeah. So I think both of us reconciled that with what we're about to say. But yeah, I didn't have the Grizzlies and I messed up. So I think just considering how they were last season, they had an offensive rating of 117, which was top 10 in the league, 6 specifically, and a defensive rating of 112.6, which was 11th. And I think they are due for another good season. I don't necessarily think they'll be contenders like they have been in the past, but I think they are a legitimate team to be worried about in the West. I don't see them having home court advantage necessarily, but I still think that in the first round, that is a team that could give you fits, and especially with how long the season is and having a team that physical, that could break down your body in the first round, and then you have the semis and then Western Conference Finals and then the finals. That's a team that might not necessarily make it all the way, but like I said before, give you fits. And we're down another team, and that might have implications further down the road. But continuing on with that, I think they're still a legit team primarily because of the fact that even though Desmond Bane is gone, we've seen in the past that John Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. still play well. Last year, they had a net rating of 13.5 points, which if you compare that to teams, I know there are only 2 people on that roster, so small sample size, but that would be number 1 in the league come for 2024-2025 season. So I think considering that, they have a lot of upside still. Like, those are 2 main pieces they're really trying to build around, right? And you can kind of see that with the versatility of the players they brought in, whether it was Edey, right, with having a big man that could do pick and roll with Ja. And then they had another player, Brandon Scott, and then also Santi Aldama. Those are kind of some bigs that fit well with Ja and him being able to dish near the cup and then being able to finish pretty well. But also, they have some guards that they had that I'm pretty high on this year. So that's another reason why I think they have some upside and may be a team that we slept on originally on Tuesday. So Scottie Pippen Jr., I know that series against Oklahoma City was quick, 4 and done, but he played extremely well when Ja went out. I think he averaged 20 points approximately in that series. And specifically when Ja went out, he had 2 games where he had 25 plus. So I'm high on him this year, especially with Bane gone. You can see his minutes uptick in that this year. And then Cedric Coward. I know we've talked about him.
He's been tough so far.
He's played well.
Yeah.
He should be at Duke right now, which makes me mad, but because I'm a Duke Blue Devils fan, people. But yeah, so he's playing well, and I think that a lot of scouts didn't necessarily have him as rated as highly as the way he's been playing. So my updated rankings now in the West, with that being said, is OKC still 1, Denver still 2, Golden State still 3, Lakers 4, Minnesota 5, 6 San Antonio. And I switched this portion up a little bit. I have Houston at 7. I had them at 8 originally, but I think they've shown me some things in the past 2 days that had me encouraged. Kevin Durant's still playing like Kevin Durant. We know that. But
yeah.
The rest of their core, I have faith in them. Tari Eason with a big shot yesterday. Shout out to him hitting that half-court buzzer beater. So I just like their squad. Clippers, I just have concerns about their age. I think they're one of those teams that don't care about the regular season, and come playoff time, they'll figure it out. But I just have concerns about what their gel and moving pieces will look like this season, especially with the additions of John Collins, Bradley Beal, Chris Paul. I know they're all, well, Chris Paul and John Collins have been a part of some winning teams. Bradley Beal, not as much, but I think that'll change this year. Yeah. Grizzlies are my 9, and then Dallas are my 10. So that bumps out the Jazz. I'm still high on the Jazz, but I think that was kind of ludicrous for me to say Jazz before the Grizzlies.
The established Grizzlies.
So, yeah, that's what my new rankings look like. Ryan, do you have any thoughts? You said that was a joint effort between both of us. So,
and I agree. I don't think I'm as high on the Grizzlies as you are, but one player you didn't mention, maybe the greatest University of South Carolina college basketball player ever, G.G. Jackson.
Yeah, G.G.
Also a pretty good player in his sophomore season. So I like the young players there with a mix of an elite point guard and arguably an elite big as well. And they haven't had Zach Edey return this season. He's projected to return November 7th. He re-sprained his ankle in the offseason. So he's, working to come back. Should be back soon. My biggest concern, I'm going to push back a little bit.
Awesome.
Interior defense.
Yeah.
We know Jaren Jackson Jr. is I would say a great interior defender. But the way they're coached defensively is different from last season. I like what you said about, the new head coach, Tomas Isalo, coming in and changing things on the offensive side. He's also changed the way they play defense. Yeah. And I don't think they're doing so well so far. They have the worst defensive rating in franchise history.
That's all.
116.8 if the season ended today, which, again, small sample size. And we throw out stats, but I know it's small sample size. So I'm not going to say that they're the worst defensive team in franchise history. Right. Because they aren't. But the numbers say that they are.
Still early, but it is telling, though. Yeah. When you give up 140 points to the Miami Heat, that means something.
So far, also, Jaren Jackson has had a negative defensive box plus minus. Box plus minus is a little outdated of a stat, but, he's been in the league for, 8 years, 7-8 years? Yeah. This is his first season where if the season ended today, he would be on the negative side of defensive box.
And he's a depoy, so it means that in years past, we've seen good production from him, obviously.
Yeah, I actually think they're playing him differently than they did with Taylor Jenkins. Mm-hmm. And here's why. First of all, the late slate of games last night was incredible. Yeah. We had the Austin Reeves buzzer beater. He might be the best guard in the NBA. But we saw Suns Grizzlies. Ja Morant clutch layup to win the game. However, they gave up a lead. They had like a 9-point lead in the fourth quarter. They gave it up. And the Suns aren't that good. Let's be real. Yeah. They're not. We didn't even mention them last episode. One of the teams that we did not mention. Because they won't make the playoffs. Even with Book, they probably won't make the playoffs. Mark Williams has looked okay, but last season, Jaren Jackson led the league, which this isn't a good led the league, but led the league in personal fouls. Yeah. That's been his biggest concern over the course of his career, but it actually peaked last season. 3.5 per game. This season, the head coach Isalo is playing him a little bit more outside instead of being like the defensive anchor in the middle, just kind of hanging around the paint, waiting for someone to come in. It's a little bit more of a spread defense. That can work, but the Suns killed them on the 45 cuts, the back cuts. Right. It always felt like it's like if offsides was illegal in soccer. Like they kept getting past the back line of defense. Right. And there were some easy dunks from the Suns. And the Suns didn't play that well. And actually the Grizzlies shot well. They played well offensively, I thought. But I really saw some glaring holes in that back line of the defense. I think they're going to have to figure out if they are going to go with a spread defense in order to limit fouling and just in general having foul trouble with Jaren Jackson. That's been a problem, especially in the playoffs. I understand they want to get away from that, but I think the Suns exposed it really well. So my question mark is there, and then my potential answer is what happens when Zach Edey comes back.
Right. And that's valid. And I think that Jaren Jackson he's not a 5, right? Like he's a true 4, I think, in my opinion. But
maybe like 2020s, he could be a 5 on certain teams. But when you have Zach Edey, certainly,
right? You don't. It's
kind of like the Bam situation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I do have faith when Edey comes back that we'll kind of see Jaren playing a little more in a comfortable spot for himself, right? And like historically, we've seen that as well. But I am encouraged, though. I know that he, like you said, has had some defensive woes this season, but knowing the Grizzlies and that franchise's history with how sound they've been defensively, I know you said this is the worst season up to this point in terms of defensive rating, but I do think they'll get it together. My only concern that we haven't really mentioned is just the maturity of that team. A lot of young players, and your franchise leader has not only had issues on the court with like injury, but obviously Jaws has some off the court issues as well.
Sure.
So I think this is a big opportunity for him to step up as a leader, and this I think is going to be a huge testament to how he responds to adversity with, being out for the last couple of seasons with injury and also just the suspensions he's had. So I don't know. Those are my concerns, but I still am high on them enough to get to the play-in. I think they'll figure it out, especially come Edey.
I slotted them in now at 8.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, 9.
Yeah.
I have OKC, Denver, the Clippers, which I explained last episode why I disagree with you there.
Right.
But I do like your point about that they kind of wait for the playoffs to lock in. But I think they are the third best team in the conference, so I put them at 3.
Right.
San Antonio, and then you sold me on the Warriors. I bumped them up to 5. Minnesota still around 6. Lakers, Houston, and then the Grizzlies and Dallas. Mm-hmm. Dallas also at 10. So I like what you said, and I think I hate to do it, but I had to push Portland out. That was my team. Yours is the Jazz.
Yeah.
I like Portland, but with obviously a head coaching change,
right?
It's a little bit difficult. But
and not even just head coaching. It's just you have to wonder about the state of that team, right? When you see that big of a headline coming within the organization, just like how are the players feeling? Are they frantic right now? Are they going to respond well to the coaching change?
That's a good segue.
Yeah. So right into it, man.
My other apology is I know the Bulls are actually playing well. We didn't mention Trey Jones. I think he's a really good player.
He's the first Bulls player besides Jordan, right, to have 10 steals in 3 games?
Yes,
I think something
he's leading the league in steals per game and total steals, and he is. They don't have Lonzo anymore. Kobe White's out. And I'm like, where are the playmakers? Right. Well, there you go. You have a player that's been coached by Popovich to be a true point guard. Defense and dimes is sort of the. I listen to Thinking Basketball, and they like to say, defense and dimes players. They love defense and dimes players. He's one of those players.
Yes.
I think he's really good. And we mentioned Matas and players like that. I just wanted to throw his name in the hat as a really underrated starter in the NBA.
No, yeah. So I think that's amazing shout. He's a Duke guy as well.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Popovich.
Fundamentals.
But,
Yeah, I know.
Krzyzewski as well.
Yeah.
So.
I know.
Exactly. But yeah, we mentioned the Trailblazers. So perfect segue into our next segment.
Gambling.
Gambling. Ryan, what are your thoughts on gambling?
Yeah.
No, but in all seriousness, though, obviously this has been huge for the NBA. Having the FBI be involved, I think, is kind of a statement about how big of a deal this is. And honestly, it's kind of overshadowed part of how exciting these first, like I said, 10 days have been. And I know that on the Prime intro, or when Prime took over on some games, Adam Silver had an interview, and he's like, I didn't expect my first interview on Prime to be about the FBI investigation into the league. But I think that says a lot. And if you want to kick it off, Ryan, give us your thoughts on just, how this will impact the viewership of basketball, but also just any other things that you have to say about it.
Yeah, just to recap, if you are unfamiliar with this case, on Thursday, the FBI arrested Terry Rozier. It was 30 people in total, but Terry Rozier, Chauncey Billups, head coach of the Portland Trailblazers, Terry Rozier, guard, Miami Heat, and then former forward Damon Jones. Were all arrested in part of sort of a dual investigation, and both involving the mafia, the New York Italian mafia,
like the families, like Gambinos. Yeah. I'm
Luciano.
Yeah. I'm like the head honcho.
Or Lucchese's. Yeah. Whatever it is. They're back. They're not just in the documentaries. They're still around. Mostly in New York, but there was a illegal poker fixing operation where they used allegedly used Chauncey Billups and Damon Jones were involved in that one to lure players for Chauncey Billups is at this thing into high stakes poker games, and those games were allegedly fixed so that the mafia representative would win those poker games. They knew they had advanced shuffling machines. And then the other case is insider information. Terry Rozier is the main person in this. When he was still on the Hornets, they started investigating him in 2023. They arrested him on charges of actually giving insider information for sports bets, which, as we know, can't do that. Jonte Porter was the most recent player that got in trouble for sharing information about status of players and even subbing himself out. And there's indication that maybe Terry Rozier did similar
with
things.
his foot injury,
yes.
quote unquote.
So that's what happened. My thoughts on it, I'm not, I don't want to give too much like opinion, but I do think that sports gambling is, if you haven't realized how large it is at this point, then, clearly it just shows you that there's much more involvement than ever before. And it doesn't take long to turn on an NBA game and see these advertisements on TV that are advocating for sports betting.
Right.
And whatever you believe about the ethics of sports betting, as someone who's obviously the ethics of, if you're involved with the NBA, if you work for the NBA, play for the NBA, of course that's ethically bad.
Right.
But, if you're just a, regular NBA fan who bets on games and likes it because it, or doesn't like it, then, that discretion's up to you. I'm not going to tell you whether that's ethical or not. But when it gets to this involvement stuff, and when you look at how much money is in it, it is, I think it'd be fair to say it's concerning.
No, it is, for sure.
Just the amount of money.
Yeah. And what's so interesting to me, almost odd in a way, is how, despite the fact this is going on, it's almost like ESPN is still like perpetually propagating these, bets. And so it's like, I turn on ESPN, I hear Stephen A doing an advertisement for ESPN Bet, in spite of the fact that, like, literally a week ago, probably, I would say, the biggest gambling scandal in recent memory is happening right now. So it's just weird to me how we kind of perpetually have these issues. Like, they come up every year, right, with some player doing it or some coach doing it, but we don't see any remedy on the other end, right? And so that's my personal take on it. I do understand, though, how big of a business it is, and obviously the amount of ad money that these broadcasting companies and podcasts are making. If we want a deal, DraftKings, please. But how big of a business this is. So that is just kind of the dissonance I see with this. Like, we condemn people, obviously, as we should, for their involvement in the NBA and gambling, but then we turn around and then see like commentators or like hosts, advertising for gambling or sports books. So it's a weird situation that these leagues are in.
It's kind of Wild West, because it's kind of newer, right? And now some of the outlets are, like FanDuel hired Shams. Like, Shams worked, I don't think he's still there, but he was at the FanDuel Sports, and Kay Adams is like the face of FanDuel Sports network. They do television.
Yeah, no.
And that's interesting to see that it's new. It feels a little Wild West because there aren't a lot of regulations, but we're kind of in that period where maybe this is the landmark moment that leads to some regulations. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know. I'm not going to predict, but yeah, it's definitely a period that it feels kind of like it's that and AI that are like, sure. What's the response on a legal level gonna be?
Yeah, and just like what are the implications down the road? Like, who knows what's gonna obviously this is still under investigation, right? Like, the FBI is nowhere near done with this, but like, what would be the implications down the road? What would this look like for Terry Rozier when he, like, in a hypothetical world, they're all found guilty, right, of what's been in these cases or what's been listed in these probes and documents, but it's the implication for Chauncey Billups that he's removed from the Hall of Fame. Like, I think these are legitimate questions that we have.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Stuff like that, right? Pete Rose, that's MLB's man for gambling, right? And he's not in the Hall of Fame.
And is this the first gambling-related case involving a head coach? Because I feel like that's such a position of esteem and respect.
Right.
Where, especially if you're an NBA Hall of Famer.
Right.
Where I think that's uncharted territory too. Like, the head coach knows everything about the status of every player.
Right.
And even though he wasn't involved, allegedly, in the on-court stuff, still being involved in a large gambling operation with the mafia as a head coach, that I feel like that's a whole nother level.
Yeah,
We're
I
at
don't
the
know.
helm of a program.
I don't know if it's the first one for a head coach, but in terms of, I guess, esteemed or respected officials, we saw this in '08, if I'm not mistaken, with the referees.
Yes.
I forget his specific name, but he
Tim
was
Donaghy?
also something like that.
Wasn't it Tim Donaghy? I think that's what it was. Yeah, Tim Donaghy.
Tim Donaghy. But he was involved in that, and obviously he's not reffing games anymore. So I think Adam Silver's response down the road will be interesting to see. I think, in my opinion, he's one of the better sports commissioners, especially in his handling of conduct from players. His handling of conduct from players and coaches. So I think that he's going to be pretty adamant about his response to this, whether they're guilty or not, right? Yeah. I think that he's going to implement changes that will be for the better. But I have faith in him as commissioner. But I don't know, like you said, it's kind of uncharted territory, especially with a figure of this nature, like Chauncey Billups. He's not no bum on the side of the road, right? Like he's a respected guy. A lot of people talk about his character, so be interesting to see.
Yeah, and man, you're so fired up. You're hitting the mic.
I know. Sorry if anybody got reverb. But yeah, no, definitely.
It'll be interesting to follow. But we wanted to start with hoops because that's what's more important,
right?
I mean, that's like what we're here for, is for the love of the game.
Exactly.
And I think that is why we saved the gambling thing, even though it happened last week, for today's episode, because we just wanted to start with pure hoops.
Right.
But we had to talk about it.
No, of course. We couldn't ignore it, but of course we had to talk about hoops, talk about Wemby, and if you guys haven't listened to the first episode, please tune in.
Yeah.
So, as always,
dropping Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Yeah.
So follow along. We'll have some special guests, people that know a lot about basketball.
Right. We have a lineup coming up.
Yeah. So stay tuned. College basketball next week.
Stay tuned. We'll have guests starting next week, I think. So, as always, for the love of the game, this has been 303 Hoops. Until next time.